In today's video, we will explain how a uniquely Indian problem of voltage fluctuation led to the rise of a fast-moving electronic company. Also, if you have not done it already, do subscribe to our channel. We keep posting such useful research and analysis content here. India might be 100% electrified, but power fluctuation and outages are still rampant. Often you will see the lights flicker, the fan turning slower than usual, and the TV might switch off and on by itself. In fact, when Niti Aayog conducted a survey of consumers across India, they found that 28% of people were unhappy with the quality of electricity supply to their homes, and this is in 2023. So now imagine India in 1970s, the power fluctuation would have been significantly worse, right? Well, a young man named Mr. Chittalipalli smelled a business opportunity in 1977. The then 27-year-old borrowed a princely sum of rupees 1 lakh from his father, took up a shed in the city of Kochi, hired a couple of high school dropouts and began making voltage stabilizers to protect the refrigerators and TV sets. It was a uniquely Indian business proposition to meet a uniquely Indian problem. And the timing could not have been better. See, Kerala was just beginning to see the big Gulf boom. NRIs who were slogging away in the deserts were bringing back electronics like TV sets. They wanted to up the standards of living of their families back home. But the state power department's issues with the voltages were so problematic, and if you have shelled out good money on your electronic appliances, you will be worried sick. What if a power fluctuation destroys your expensive devices in the blink of an eye? Vguard promised a safeguard to these devices and positioned itself front and center to capture the market. But labor unions were rampant in Kerala, and Chittalipalli realized that he could not shut down business operations when trade unions caused problems. So he reached out to Women's Society in rural Kerala and taught them the manufacturing process. He outsourced most of it instead of spending crores and crores rupees in setting up his own factories. It was a smart decision because labor unions had not spread their tentacles to this segment yet, and Vguard even got exemptions on excise duties by hiring these women groups. But that was all before the turn of the millennium. You cannot run a business solely selling stabilizers now. The revenue was still around 100 crore in 2000, and everything came from stabilizers. So Vguard decided to transform itself. While the power situation was still in favor of Vguard, everyone knew that things would only get better. Even companies that manufactured air conditioners and refrigerators began to proudly claim that their appliances come with inbuilt stabilizers, that you may not need a separate unit. So from a single product company, it started its diversification spree. It manufactured switches, water pumps, ceiling fans, and even kitchen appliances like grinder. These were higher margin products too. That meant more money going straight to the bottom line. But it also realized that the south of the India alone could not drive its future. The reliance on the south to drive 95% of its revenue had to change. Vguard needed geographical diversification as well. They hired fresh sales team for every product line. They ramped up advertising to around 5% of the revenue. They wanted everyone to know about the company. The end result? Stabilizers now only contribute to around 20% of its revenue today. And the share of the south has dropped to 60%. It is now also generating revenue from digital UPS, electric fans, pumps, motor, PVC insulated cables, water heaters, and even solar water heaters. So talking about the Vguard geographic diversification, revenues from non-south states is increasing year on year. It's even making acquisitions that meet this dual goal of product and geographical diversification. Like Sunflame Enterprises, the fox that makes stove tops and chimneys. As per ICICI Direct, just this purchase alone could mean that kitchen appliances will contribute to 10% of Vguard's revenue, and it's all increase its revenue pie from the north, since that's where 80% of Sunflame's revenue come from. And yes, it's a higher margin business too. So you can see where Vguard is trying to take its business. If you were someone who had reposed faith in the company during its IPO in 2008 and bet on how it would change its fortune over the past couple of decades, you would be sitting on an eye-watering 5000% return today, or to break it down, nearly 30% return annually. Everything seems to be going well for the company, but it's not without its hiccups too. There is the recent rough patch where nothing seemed to be going right for the company, and it suffered its lowest EBITDA margin in the past 10 quarters. Part of this is because new star ratings were introduced for fans and the company had to resort to discounting the old stocks. Its water pumps did not have too much demand because apparently the groundwater levels have been strong down south and no one needed to pump it up. And the weather gods did not help. Winter was delayed and its water heater business turned into a damn squib. One theory is that its fortunes are heavily linked to real estate. As per HDFC Securities, nearly 3/4 of its products that make up to 80% of its profit depends on the growth of products like ACs and appliances. So if discretionary spending drops and people are not building and buying new homes as such, they won't need too many new appliances. So that's a constant threat. Then there is age-old strategy of outsourcing manufacturing. While that has worked in the past to compete with the players across India, Vguard has slowly been ramping up its in-house manufacturing capacity. From just 43% in FY19, it is currently 60% and is being ramped up to nearly 75%. Sure, it will lead to improved efficiency and margins in the longer run. But in order to get there, Vguard will have to pump in more and more money to set up manufacturing units. And finally, Vguard is no Havels. See, Havels is entrenched in the minds of most customers, especially in the north of India. For Vguard, its diversification strategy basically means taking on an incumbent on its own turf. It's tough. Vguard might have to spend even more on advertising, sweeten the pot for distributors, and all of that costs money. Anyways, despite all the changes in the past 4 decades, Vguard's DNA has not changed. Sure, the contribution from stabilizers is just 1/5 of its revenue now, but the company that Chittapillai set up in 1977 still commands a whooping 51% of the organized stabilizer market in the country. It's quite interesting that a business born out of inefficiencies of India's power sector has become so big, no? Well, we will have to see how it turns out in future, but until then, don't forget to like and share this video with your friends and family. See you again in the next video.